welcome to History Channel. I'm Natalie.
I'm Laura.
Today we have a special transmission.
We are going to talk about the southern colonies. These colonies were established by England during the 17th and 18th centuries. But how did the story of these colonies start? Well, director, please. On May 20th, in 1607, a group of sailors tied their ships to trees on the banks of a broad and deep river. They named the river the James in honor of James I, King of England, the country from which they had set sail 5 long months before. Just over 100 men went ashore. On the swamp banks, they began cutting down bushes and trees and building rough shelters for themselves. By the end of the year, 2 out of every 3 of them were dead, but their little group of huts became the first lasting English settlement in America. The states of Maryland, Virginia, North and South Carolina, and Georgia are part of the southern colonies.
The colonies were founded in order to compete with other European powers in quest for land, wealth, and clothing. Director, please.
Virginia was founded in 1607 by John Smith at Jamestown. Virginia was named for Elizabeth I, England's so-called Virgin Queen. Maryland was founded in 1633 by Lord Baltimore, Sir George Calvert. Maryland was named for Queen Henrietta Maria of England. North Carolina was founded in 1653 by Virgin colonists. South Carolina was founded in 1663 by English colonists. North Carolina and South Carolina were named for Charles I of England. Carolus is Latin for Charles, from which Caroline is derived. Georgia was founded in 1732 by James Oglethorpe. Georgia is named for King George II.
There were considerable differences between New England, Middle and Southern regions. Economic activities and trade depending on the environment in which the colonies lived. The trade is named triangular trade.
Director, please.
In this History Illustrated video, we're going to take a look at the vocabulary word triangular trade. Now, quite literally, triangular trade is getting its name from the shape of the trade routes. For example, from America to Europe, from Europe to Africa, and then from Africa to America, and back and forth as well. They're all going the other direction as well. So it creates a triangular shape. But having the shape isn't the main idea. What we're talking mostly about are the things that are being traded. That's the primary focus. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. For example, the things that are in America that Europe wants are what we call raw materials. Now, quite literally, they're raw, meaning that they're unfinished. They're not turned into anything yet. So, for example, lumber or wood. There's a lot of trees in America. They can use those to turn into furniture, for example, or cotton. We could take cotton and we could turn that into clothes. So America would send these things to Europe, and in exchange, Europe would turn cotton, for example, into shirts or other types of clothing, and lumber they could turn into furniture or other types of things that people in America would want, and Europe would take those and send them back over and sell them to them. We call these things manufactured goods. So manufactured goods are being created in Europe. America has all the raw materials they need to create the manufactured goods. But there is the story of Africa involved in this. So Africa would want some of these things as well. So they would be sending things like guns or clothing or beer, anything that they couldn't produce themselves in Africa. In exchange, Africa would send them things like gold or iron, which are some more raw materials that aren't turned into anything yet. And then to complete the third leg of the triangle, Africa was going to send work. They needed to get a lot of workers to the Americas to get these raw materials, and the workers were going to be primarily slaves from Africa. So slave labor. They wanted to make sure they can get something for free out of the deal to keep the cost of getting the raw materials down. They didn't want to pay too much, so they wanted to pay very little or nothing at all. So they used slaves. They would send them to Africa, and America would actually send some things back to Africa too, like rum or other types of alcohol that they could get more slaves for. So the idea of triangular trade is that it is shaped like a triangle, but the major takeaway that you need to know is that raw materials are being sent to Europe. Europe is sending manufactured goods to African America, and slaves, this part here is pretty major, slaves are being sent to America.
Now we go to Argentina, where two historians will tell us more about the beginning of this state and slave history.
Natalia and Laura, we are listening.